Welcome back to Morning Joe. John Heilman and Mike Barnacle are still at the table. Senior political editor and White House correspondent for the Huffington Post, Sam Stein, joins us. And in Chicago, MSNBC political analyst and former chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Steele. And Chuck Todd will be here in just a few moments.
John Heilman, obviously, the reason why we talk about Chris Christie, why Chris Christie is important, is the only reason Jeb Bush is considering running is when Chris Christie started to falter a bit. But I think, Christie, boy, he's locked and loaded, ready to go.
He looks like he wanted to run before, and I think he still wants to run. I mean, there are obviously a lot of circumstances still playing out over the course of these months in terms of these investigations that might make it impossible for him to run. But I think
what?
Well, he's under investigation on multiple fronts, and we still don't actually know the answers, the final answers to many of the questions the guy raised.
If you open up the newspaper, you'll see an update on it, I think, in the Daily News, where somebody's saying the governor knew.
But he's not going to let Democratic investigations stop him from running.
No, but the facts could come out and be damning. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying we don't know the answers. But there's no doubt that if he gets to the place where he is exonerated from the most serious charges that have been leveled against him, I think there's no question he's going to try to run, but he's going to run from a much weakened position than where he would have been had none of this happened.
But Sam Stein, it sounds like, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed that John had that analysis after the Brooklyn loss last night. I thought I'd be crying on the set today.
Wow.
But it was very cogent.
That's
sorry, was that too much? Was that too much?
Too early.
Oh, sorry. It was a 7 a.m. hour. I thought the 6 a.m. hour was too early.
Sam, I know where you live, Sam. You realize that, right?
Oh, wow.
I moved. Anyways, I think John hit it on the head. I think he clearly seems like he wants to run, but there are so many lingering questions with these investigations. And Democrats feel pretty emboldened on a new front, too, which is that the credit rating of New Jersey has been reduced on several occasions in the recent months. So there are some chinks to the armor, let's say. He's certainly not in as strong a position as he was before the investigations, and he would be in a weakened position if he were to actually go forward with this. But it seems like he's full steam ahead.
Michael, a lot of Chris Christie's opponents and detractors have sort of gleefully said that this is a mortal wound. He's finished. He can never run nationally again. His presidential ambitions are over. But we still haven't seen that one email or that one connection to his office that said, shut down the traffic. Maybe we will in this new investigation. We don't know yet. But if he's cleared in that way in this investigation, he has 2 years, or a year anyway, to put it behind him. Do you think a voter in Iowa, if you take a step back, or a voter in South Carolina or New Hampshire, is as concerned about this issue with Chris Christie as the media and national political analysts are?
No, I don't think they are. I think that's an obsession of the New York media market and the Washington market that, seem to fixate on Chris Christie. Chris Christie's problems are on two fronts. One is obviously the, situation in New Jersey with the Bridgegate and the federal investigation into the storm funding. But the other problem is within the party itself, the base, how those Iowans and New Hampshireites and others view his candidacy potentially as President of the United States is really the real test for Chris Christie. It always has been. Everything else notwithstanding, all the glamour and love that comes from around the country, not necessarily the vibe that is felt at the base.
I agree. And Mike Barnacle, at the end of the day, he's going to be judged by how he works it in New Hampshire, how he works it in Iowa, how he works it in South Carolina, and frankly, they don't give a damn what the New York Times editorial page writes about Chris Christie. In fact, the more negative it is, the more he can hold it up in a combative way, and I use combative in a very positive sense, in a combative way, and actually win over some people that wouldn't have been with him before.
I do not disagree. So, John Heilman, handicap this for us. Given the existing field, Jeb Bush hasn't made up his mind, but you have Rand Paul, you have Marco Rubio, supposedly a couple of others. Chris Christie skips Iowa, goes into New Hampshire. What happens?
Well, boy, you need to know what the rest of the field looked like, and it's never worked out well for people who have tried to skip the first state. I mean, it's Rudy Giuliani tried that strategy back in 2008. The party likes to see if you want to be president, they like to see you compete, and they like to see you compete everywhere, not just Iowans, but the rest of the party. It's like if you're in, especially if you're the putative front runner. And this was the challenge that Hillary Clinton faced in 2008. It was kind of like, I'm the front runner, but I'm going to skip Iowa. That projects all kinds of weakness. You know, I think Christie has to go, and he has to try to play everywhere. The old Chris Christie, at his highest moment, when he was at his strongest, I don't think he was actually a bad Iowa candidate. I mean, he obviously is not evangelical or a cultural conservative, you know, the way some are, but he had a lot of Tea Party support, and he had a lot of populist appeal.
Well, look at the Iowa governor. I mean, the Iowa governor's not...
He's not. There's
off the rails.
Chris Christie on his game can play. Can play anywhere.
Anyway. All right, Senator Harry Reid is sounding off on everything from campaign finance to presidential politics, and of course, the Koch brothers are among his top targets. In fact, the majority leader tells BuzzFeed, quote, if they Romney was watched closely by me, that's nothing compared to what it's going to be like with the Koch brothers. The Nevada Democrat is now vowing to push a constitutional amendment limiting campaign contributions, promising multiple votes if necessary. He cited the, quote, corrupting influence of the Citizens United ruling, which in his words put the political process in the sewer. Reid also suggested his recent comments to NBC News about billionaire Sheldon Adelson have been misinterpreted. Here's what he told Chuck Todd in part last week.
These are the two richest people in the world, and they are in it to make money. That's their whole goal here, is to add zeros to their billions. And I don't think that's the case with any of the...
You don't think that's the case with Adelson, for instance? He spent $100 million in 2012.
Hey, I know
and
Sheldon,
I know you should know more.
I know Sheldon Adelson.
Yeah.
He's not in this for money. He did not in this to make money. He's in it because he has certain ideological views. Now, Sheldon Adelson, social views are in keeping with the Democrats on choice, on all kinds of things. So Sheldon Adelson, don't pick on him. He's not in it to make money.
Reid tells BuzzFeed, quote, I didn't praise Adelson. I just said on social issues he's good. We can speculate who is my favorite billionaire, but the point is there's too much money in politics.
Let's bring in Chuck Todd right now. Chuck, it's absolutely fascinating to me that the Democrats have Harry Reid running the United States Senate. You go back to the campaign, he talked about Romney. Yes, he did discuss Romney last hour. John Heilman brought it up, that he told the lie, or suggested incorrectly, that Mitt Romney hadn't paid taxes in 10 years. It was a lie. He kept repeating it. And now he calls the Koch brothers the richest people in the world, biggest polluters. He's false. He's backtracking now on Sheldon Adelson when we've got the tape. It just seems... I don't understand why Democrats have this guy running the Senate. And what's your take, since you're at the middle of this story?
Well, in some ways, you actually can see why Democrats, I think, some secretly like that Harry Reid is willing to do those things. He's willing to play, for instance, look at yesterday's story. There are a lot of Democrats who think what Karl Rove did about Hillary was a purposeful decision, because look at what's happened. There's been multiple days of questions about her age and gotten to introduce that idea. And Harry Reid, in some ways, has gleefully played that role for Democrats. You know, oh, I don't know if Mitt Romney paid any taxes. You just throw it out there enough. You're the Senate Majority Leader, so you're going to get quoted. You know, you're not just a crazy blogger that's throwing out these things.
But you just said Senate